Do you look at your mountain of goals and feel stuck?
Or have you already achieved great things and yet you know there's still more?
Then you've come to the right place.
We're here to offer practical tools and tangible strategies to change your mindset.
And challenge you to produce a life beyond the norm.
I'm Nate.
I'm Laura.
Welcome to the Transcendence Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back. We are so excited today. We're going over the Enneagram Type 2. This is the helper. Laura and I actually have a lot of Enneagram 2s in our life. Both of our moms are Enneagram 2s. We're surrounded by a bunch of friends and coworkers that are Enneagram Type 2s. Mm-hmm. So we're super excited to dive into this one. Laura, go ahead and give us a description of what is it to be a 2?
Yeah, so a lot of 2s are generous, demonstrative, people-pleasing, and possessive. Those are the common words that you'll hear when describing a Type 2. And I want to focus in on their basic fear. And a Type 2's basic fear is being unwanted or unworthy of being loved. And their basic desire is to be loved. And so a lot of this can come out in the ways that they serve other people. That's where we get the helper from, is because their number one thing is to help other people. Their key motivations: they want to be loved, to express their feelings for others, to be needed and appreciated, to get others to respond to them, to vindicate their claims about themselves. And I want to read from The Road Back to You. There's a little excerpt from this book by Ian Cron, and it's called What It's Like to Be a 2. People think I'm a psychic because I usually know what other people need or want. Even people I don't know well share deep stuff about their lives with me. It seems like people who love me should already know what I need. I need to be acknowledged and appreciated for my contributions. I'm more comfortable giving than receiving. I like my home to feel safe and welcoming for the family and others. I care a great deal about people and what they think of me. I want other people to think I love everyone, even though I don't. I like when people who love me do something unexpected for me. Lots of people ask me for help, and it makes me feel valuable. When people ask me what I need, I have no idea how to answer. When I'm tired, I often feel like people take me for granted. People say my emotions can feel over the top. I feel angry and conflicted when my needs conflict with others. Sometimes it is hard for me to watch movies because I find it almost unbearable to see other people suffer. And lastly, I worry about being forgiven when I make mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, 2s are also the best hosts and hostesses of parties. Like if you want to throw a great party, have a 2 help you plan it. Yeah. Because they automatically know what other people want, what other people need, and that's what they're there to do. That's a 2 in their strength, right? Utilizing their strength. What you're going to see with the 2s though sometimes is you'll see a common theme through here. An unhealthy 2 or someone that's struggling with things, you're going to see a sense of pride. That is actually the 2's deadly sin. They're going to actually do things in order to get a positive result back to them, rather than just doing them to be nice or to genuinely want to help. Their pride also usually comes through from believing that they're either irreplaceable or indispensable. It almost comes through as more of a false humility rather than a boastfulness. They're not going to sit there and, they will let you know exactly what they did that day. That's one thing you'll see in a 2 is they'll give you the whole list of how they helped each person that day. But it's not going to come across as boastful a lot of times, but it's going to come across as, you guys need me. That type of pride. Yeah. You're going to see that more and more with a 2. Now, some examples of people in history too, that are 2s are people like Eleanor Roosevelt, Elizabeth Taylor, Kenny G, Denny Glover, Stevie Wonder. There's a ton of great people that have done great things that are 2s and were actually able to help the world living in that selfless space.
For a lot of us, it's not actually that natural to consider others before ourselves. I know as a 6, being someone that's so fearful, a lot of times I don't have time to think about what someone else needs. And it's not out of rudeness or being inconsiderate. It's just there's other things at the forefront of my mind. And so being around 2s has helped me to make sure that I'm taking that time to add value to people. I'm taking the time to go out of my way and compliment someone, go out of my way and, make sure they feel appreciated, because sometimes we get so wrapped up in the busyness of life that we can forget to remind the people in our life how amazing they are, how much we appreciate them, and how much we love them.
And it's so beneficial for me to surround myself with 2s as an 8, and we'll get to this later in more depth in another episode, but my growth number is actually a 2. But I see that being raised by a 2 has helped me be more generous, helped me want to give more, helped me learn to give more, learn to try to do things without people even asking and go above and beyond in that respect.
Yeah. If you have a 2 in your life, make sure to appreciate what they do. Yeah. Because I think a lot of times there is a balance, but a lot of the times 2s will do something and it will go unnoticed, because like Nate, you were saying, the way you were raised, your mom would just make food if you were hungry, and she always went the extra mile, and for you that became just the norm. And when other people would come over, they would go, wow, my mom doesn't do that. So it gives you a perspective to go, wow, I really appreciate that my mom does that. And I see, like in my mom being a 2 as well, I see her light up when I, say, hey, thank you for doing that, or thank you for doing this. And I really feel like that is something to just make a mental note of, and just to remember that if you have 2s in your life and they do something special for you, make sure to acknowledge it.
Yeah, never take anybody for granted, but especially a 2, because they're going to be the ones that are going to go out of their way for you the most. So don't ever let that be the norm. And I think that helped me realize that it's not the norm for everyone. It helped me not take anything for granted when it came to all that my mom would do. I mean, our moms are literally the ones we could host a Mother's Day lunch or dinner at our house and prepare a whole meal for them. And they're constantly asking how they can help. They're trying
to prepare the meal themselves.
They're jumping up. They're trying to serve other people. They're trying to do the dishes. And we're like, this is a Mother's Day meal.
Yeah.
But it's funny because that's where they get their value from. That's where they feel needed and they feel like they have to versus that get to. Laura, tell us a little bit about the 2 wings. Yeah. Because obviously we have the 1 wing and we have the 3 wing going either direction on the circle.
So you were talking earlier about how 2s make great hosts or hostesses. And it's funny because a 2 wing 3, that is actually what they're called, the host/hostess. And so words that describe this wing, they're confident, charming, outgoing, and focused on success and sometimes competitive. And, I think of, being focused on success and competitive, they want to look good while they're getting stuff done. Do you feel like that is pretty accurate?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about a 3, and we'll get more into that next week, actually, you're going to see more of it come about that they're really concerned about their reputation. So some of those traits are going to start to play in part. A 3 wants to look successful. Yeah. And a 2 starts to want to exhibit that where they're helping. Yeah. Partially based on their reputation.
Right. They're definitely more image conscious of the 2 wings. As far as a 2 wing 1, they are called the servant. They are idealistic, just like a type 1. They're dedicated. They can be judgy, but they're also reasonable. They are hard on themselves and they're objective. I feel like for this type, if you fall into this category and you're like, oh yeah, I'm a 2 wing 1, you may not actually be the people-centered type 2. You may be more inward as you help people because, you're more focused on finding the areas to help to make things come together and be complete or perfect, because your wing is a 1 and a 1 is a perfectionist.
Some common phrases you're going to hear from a type 2 wing 1 is going to be something like, I could have helped them better like this. They're going to go back and critique and analyze everything that they've done.
Yep. I could have, should have.
Yep. Yeah. They're going to always hold themselves to a higher standard when it comes to helping people, and it's never going to be good enough. They could have always helped somebody better. And you're going to see that come through. Sometimes you got to be careful because that's going to come through as a way to try to get positive reinforcement from other people. If they're not getting enough positive feedback in their life, 2s will sometimes use certain word tracks to try to stir that up. Yeah. They'll try to get the people around them that know that they're needed and know that they're valued to say some things of value because they didn't get it from somebody else.
Right. They'll say like, oh, I didn't do that well, or, oh, this didn't turn out good. And, and the only reason they're saying that is so that you'll say, oh no, you did a great job, or oh no, this is really good, and just like we've been saying, when you study this, it helps you be more aware overall of how to communicate with other types as well. So we're just throwing in these little nuggets of gold so that you can, see how to, like I said, communicate with other types if you're not a 2 as well.
Because these are some of those things that you do unconsciously.
Yeah.
Like 2s a lot of times don't even recognize that they do this, that they don't, like I said, they'll come home from a busy day and talk about all the things that they accomplished and how many times they had to help somebody.
Yeah.
And all the good things that they did, because they're looking for that wow. Because maybe that person that they helped didn't say thank you, so they're trying to get it from somebody else. So 2s, be cautious that you're doing this because some other types can see through it. Mm-hmm. Some other types know what you're doing, and if it's done too often, they're going to see that you're really only helping people for, again, that pride.
You
or
have
that
motives.
Yeah, or that it's more of for your self-image than it is,
just
to actually help somebody.
Genuinely helpful, yeah.
So now we'll break down the subtypes of a 2. So we all know we have the social, the intimate, and the self-preservation. The social 2s are going to be the 2s that stand out in a crowd. So these are going to be the 2s that gain approval from being powerful, from being competent, from being influential. These are the ones that will step up and actually take charge. These are the ones that are very competitive. A lot of times these are also 2-wing 3s. But also pride sets in a lot easier with these, and it's a lot more apparent with these. Not that the other 2 subtypes deal with pride just as much, but these ones, it comes across the most because they're usually more image conscious and usually doing things to network with people. They'll usually actually give more just to distract their negative emotions that they feel about themselves. A lot of times their giving comes out of an insecurity because this is where they can give value. They usually unconsciously believe one of 3 things. They either believe that everyone wants to be like them. This is the prideful, boastful side of it too, that everyone needs to be like me because I help everybody. Or they'll, believe that people are less able than they are. This is where they think that they're irreplaceable and that they're the greatest thing. Or they'll actually believe that people are out to get them and don't give them the value. This is where their envy sets in and their negative emotion of envy or fear or shame kicks in.
One of their biggest obstacles is feeling worthless. That is their biggest struggle. And a lot of times they believe that they must, do or be something extraordinary in order to win other people's appreciation or acceptance from others. That's, just that feeling of feeling worthless. And so that's why a lot of times they find their worth in helping others because they feel like if they do good deeds, that takes them to the next level.
Yeah, a healthy social 2 is really creative when it comes to their generosity. It's usually not just seen through in one way. They usually look deeper and deeper in somebody, and they know really thoughtful ways to be generous to people and can be very powerful leaders. But these are also the ones that rely on external validation the most. So in an unhealthy state where they don't have that self-confidence, they're going to be doing these acts expecting something in return. And let's be honest, most people nowadays will let you down at some point.
Yeah.
And when they get let down, an unhealthy 2, especially a social 2, is going to be let down hard.
Yeah.
And they're going to feel like they're worthless because they did this positive thing and didn't get somebody in return. They text this person and they didn't text them back. Or they reached out when they were feeling bad and this person didn't reciprocate that. And to be honest, just not everyone's mind works the same. And for a 2 to have that realization of, yeah, my natural instinct's to help, but theirs isn't.
Yeah.
I need to ask for it.
And you just
it's a tough battle.
You just have to have the expectation of knowing I help people more than other people do. And that's okay.
And then the second one being the intimate subtype. The intimate 2 is the best at building a really strong relationship. You'll see really strong family ties when you're talking about intimate 2s. You're going to see usually their spouse and them have a really great relationship. Their kids have a great relationship. Their friends, they usually only have a couple core close friends because their focus is building on really strong relationships. Yeah. And a really healthy intimate 2 will have the strongest of strong relationships, honestly. The intimate 2s are also going to be the ones that have the toughest time saying no. Even when they don't want to do something, they're going to feel the most obligated to still help when there's a help needed. But it's usually, in an unhealthy side, it sometimes comes across as there's a deeper motive behind it, because the intimate 2 is also known as the seductive 2. This is where they're going to use their attractiveness, and this isn't always a physical attractiveness. Sometimes this is I can fill your needs the best out of anybody. So they'll make sure they're filling that one person's needs better than anybody else in the world, because that makes them attractive, and they want to be able to seduce and control the situation. So that's an unhealthy side of the intimate 2, where a healthy side is, like you said, they're just building a strong, deep relationship and truly want to help you to the best of their abilities. And I see that come across more when I am in a healthy state, when I'm in a healthier state of mind. Because like we said before, your health levels will adjust day to day. Like I said, your type's not going to waver. Your wing probably won't waver. And even your subtype probably won't waver. But your healthy and unhealthy level is what's going to waver on day to day. And you have to make a conscious decision every morning to try to actively be healthy. And I'll definitely notice I'm more in tune with how somebody is really doing when I'm in healthy, when I'm in that growth of living similar to a 2, where don't want to accept good as an answer of how you're doing today.
Yeah.
I want to know, how are you really doing today? What are you truly feeling? Give me a really descriptive emotion of how you're feeling today. And a 2 is going to do that every time.
Yep.
It's whether healthy or unhealthy, they're going to do that every time.
Just a quick break. We hope you are enjoying this Enneagram series. In a better effort to serve you guys, our listeners, we would love to know if you have any questions regarding the Enneagram.
In just a few short weeks, we'll be hosting a Q&A right here on YouTube about the Enneagram. So if you do have any questions, make sure you drop them in a comment below.
Now, let's get back to the episode.
The next one's the self-preservation 2. These are known as the innocent 2s. So these 2s like to be taken care of, but they like to help others enough that they are still needed in that space. They are the most self-nurturing out of the 2s, which is good, because one of the part of becoming a healthy 2 is being able to take care of yourself as well as others. So they have that going for them, but they're also the ones that don't like to take responsibility for their actions. They like to push blame a lot because they're just worried about preserving themselves.
Yeah.
You'll also see this a lot. You'll see it in the wing 1 and the wing 3 a lot, the self-preservation. They're more of the introvert. I'll stick to myself. If I make a mess up, I'm going to blame it on the person that's protecting me. I'm going to blame it on the person that I'm supposed to be dependent to, even though they're very capable of taking care of themselves as well.
Do you feel like that comes from being image conscious as well?
Yeah, it'll come from being image conscious because they don't want to be seen as a bad person. So these are going to be the 2s that don't necessarily want to give as much as the other 2s. These are going to be the 2s that almost feel obligated to help rather than wanting to help, just so they can keep their level of how much the other group around them or the person with them needs them. So they're going to feel obligated to help. These are going to be the ones that oftentimes when fear kicks in, they withdraw, they pull back because they don't want to take any responsibility for any of their actions. Now let's talk about the groupings of the 2. So we went over just 3 different types of grouping. We talked about your instinctual center. We talked about your harmonic grouping and your horny Venus group. And the 3 different types of grouping there. The instinctual center or the intelligence center, they share it with the 3 and the 4. This is going to be the heart triad or the feeling triad. They're going to have the hardest time dealing with sadness or shame. So like we said last time, all the types deal with anger, shame, or sadness and fear, but they know how to deal with fear and anger, but a lot of times their sadness, they don't know what to do with. So with the 2s, you're going to see that they try to get others to like them, to cover up their sadness or try to fulfill their sadness, because a lot of it comes from an insecurity inside. It could be their self-image or just their self-worth. They don't have the confidence a lot of times when they're living in that average or unhealthy space. So they're doing all these good deeds to get that positive reinforcement back to them. So then they can feel better about themselves and kind of get over their sadness. They won't directly address their sadness. They'll never look at themselves and be like, I'm sad, something's gone, I need to figure out why I'm sad so I can address it. They're just going to be like, I'm sad, I'm going to hold this in. I'm not going to tell a lot of people, but a lot of people can tell. A lot of people can see it. A lot of people can see the insecurity. A lot of people can see that they're not going well. So some of the challenges with the 2 specifically with sadness is that it is dependent on other people, that the pride kicks in, that they'll be privileged or they can become resentful when other people don't give back to them like they expect. But a lot of the strengths is that they are caring, they are helpful, they're generous, they're the first to jump in and help, they're the first to do anything that you ask. So there's that positive side to it.
Yeah, they're going to be your most reliable people, I feel like.
The second grouping is a harmonic grouping. So this is the grouping of how they deal with conflict. They're going to share this with the 9s and the 7s. You're going to see 9s, 7s, and 2s all avoid conflict. They're what you call the positive outlook group. So their first instinct is to almost deny it or act like it's not there and just try to look at the positive side and push through things, which is good that there's optimism there, but there's sometimes that conflicts have to be addressed in order to fix things. So the way that they're going to be different from the 9 and 7 is the way that they try to deny it. They choose to neglect their own needs. They choose to neglect their own sadness, and they choose to go outward and actually just help others and then hope somebody else is going to fulfill that. They're doing this out of a way of attention rather than, actually needing to help people or addressing their own negative feelings. The last group that we talk about is the Hornevian group. They're actually going to share this with the 1s and the 6s. So this is going to be shared actually with your type, Laura, though it's a little bit different, but the core is still there. So this is actually the way that they work with others to get what they want. Like I just said in the last one, the one thing that 2s desire specifically is attention. They actually fall into the compliant group, which means they remain really dutiful. They're going to do what they do, and they're going to hope they get the attention and the reward from it. They're going to be extremely hardworking. They're going to be extremely reliable. They're going to be there on time, but they do want the attention. That's what they want. And that's why it's so important as us, if we do have 2s in our lives and we want to show them love, yes, the 2s shouldn't do things just for attention. That's where pride kicks in. But we also should do our part and not take them for granted.
Yeah. We
should acknowledge when a 2 is doing something great for us because it's not often that we get that, especially nowadays in the world we live in. The 2s definitely step up and shine brighter when they're living in that selfless space.
And something to add too, just as we were talking about, acknowledging and loving a 2, I feel like it's really good to remember that everybody in this world functions better. They show up better. They shine brighter when they are loved. And that looks different for everybody. But I think it's good, even if you're not a 2, to really, dive into each episode, learn how to love each type well, learn what makes them tick, what gets them, what makes their heart light up, and, what makes them feel appreciated. I think it's so important just to remind the people in your world that they are loved, because people that aren't loved and don't feel loved, they're going to fall into that unhealthy state of whatever type they are.
Yeah, definitely utilize this to increase communication, increase the way that you can clearly communicate to people and clearly demonstrate love to them, and increase communication even in a business spectrum. Like I said, we have everybody at work take this because it allows us to communicate to each other and coach each other more effectively, knowing what motivates each person. And for a 2, like we said over and over, they need to feel needed or wanted, one of the 2. And you're gonna see certain points in life, as a 2, for parents, when their kids grow up and are out of the house, their kids don't really need them anymore. And that realization of
that can be
my
hard.
Job is done is very difficult sometimes for a 2. And just if we're not doing our job, the 2s don't feel needed anymore because they're not needed. But we got to do our job and let them know that they are wanted.
Yeah.
I don't need you in my life anymore. I'm very self-sufficient, but I want you in my life. And I think that comes across every 2 that is a parent is going to have that, whether it hits you harder than others, you're going to have that, oh, dang, my kids don't need me anymore. Like they've grown up.
Yeah.
And, that realization that your kids still want you rather than need you is a big realization I think a lot of 2s struggle with in that specific time period.
And even if your adult kids don't admit it, they still need you to some degree. You always need your parents.
So we talked a lot about healthy, unhealthy. So just to clarify what a healthy 2 looks like. Healthy 2s are going to be deeply unselfish. They are giving to truly make the world better and to utilize their strengths and give back to the world. But a healthy 2 is also able to acknowledge their own needs. They're not going to give in denial of their own needs. they're going to give from a strength. They're going to give from a confidence. They're going to make sure that they're taken care of so they can give to take care of others. If you're not taking care of yourself, your giving a lot of times doesn't come through as strong and is sometimes not even, up to par with certain things because you're giving out of an insecurity or you're giving out of a pridefulness. You're also going to see they're really thoughtful, like we said. They're really generous. They're the mind readers. They're the ones that know you better than anybody else, probably.
Yep.
And they're going to know exactly what you need to make you happy. What makes you sad, they're going to avoid that. What makes you angry, they're going to avoid that. What scares you, they're going to avoid that. What brings you joy or creativity, they're going to keep dumping that into your life.
And they know exactly how. It's wild.
My mom knows I love food. She will always make sure I'm fed. And you're also going to see, remember we talked about a growth number. This is the number that you exhibit some of the positive traits of when you're really in a healthy state and when you're growing to be better. For 2, that's a 4. So a 4, you're actually going to exhibit the self-nurturing and the emotional awareness, knowing how to deal with that sadness. 4s are one of the most in tune with their emotions out of all Enneagram types. So when you can actually start to get in tune with your emotions and deal with your sadness first, or your insecurity and confidence issues or your self-worth issues first, and then give to the world, you're definitely going to be in a better state.
Yeah.
Now, an average 2 does want to be closer to others. They have that natural instinct to be closer, but they also start people pleasing. They're the ones that can't say no to anything and then overwhelm their life because they're committed to so many different things to try to please so many different people rather than making sure that they're taken care of. For a 2, we said love is a supreme currency. This is what they want the most of. And average 2, you're going to hear them talk about it a lot. Whether they get it or not, they're going to be the ones, like I said, they're going to list off what they did to try to get some more love and worth out of what they did that day because they didn't feel like they got enough throughout the day. Showing them love is going to be the ultimate currency, but these are going to be the ones that feel like they don't get enough. And oftentimes it's not that they're not getting enough from other people. Oftentimes it's they're not getting enough from themselves. They don't love themselves enough, so they're trying to fill that void.
Yeah.
And to get to that average to healthy state is learning how to love yourself because it's filling in that gap and knowing your true purpose and calling in life. What you're going to see with the average ones is you also see average 2s become more hovering. You see this more with parents or intrusive.
Possessive.
Yeah, where they have to make sure that they're still needed. So they'll jump in and find any little detail that they can help with. But for some people, that could be too intrusive or too hovering and helping too much. And some people could push you away for that if you're living more in that average state. They'll also exaggerate their efforts. When I talked about doing their list throughout the day, they're also going to, like I said, make them sound even better than what they were, just so they can get, more recognition for what they did, and they'll slightly exaggerate, start to exaggerate everything. And when you exaggerate things, you discredit yourself a lot of times because people know you tend to exaggerate things. And a lot of the different 2s, especially the ones I work with, a lot of them also exaggerate things very, very much so.
I had 5 million tasks I had to do today.
Yeah. And it's every little thing's an exaggeration. But when then something serious comes up,
you believe them?
You'll naturally question. Because you're like, I don't know if that's an exaggeration or not. You exaggerate the little things. So when something serious comes up, is it really that serious? Now, an unhealthy 2, these are the ones that will become more manipulative. These are the ones that instill guilt in others. I helped you, so you should have done this back for me, and almost make you feel bad about not loving them enough. You'll also see sometimes they'll do things to get more sympathy. Like I said, they're always looking for that sympathy or that positive reinforcement, and they'll actually manipulate and do things intentionally to get more sympathy. These are also the ones you're living in that average or unhealthy space when you not just ask for forgiveness, but when someone actually forgives you, you continue to ask for forgiveness. Like you're so worried that they didn't forgive you, that you're stuck on a subject that when you say I'm sorry and someone goes, it's okay, I forgive you, you can't let it be. You're going to keep apologizing for a week because you feel that bad and you feel that worthless. You feel that self-confidence just go into the ground, that you're in an unhealthy or an average space. To get that healthy state is that confidence. That's like, okay, yeah, I messed up. They forgave me. We can move on. And you're going to see that come through a lot in the unhealthy ones. And when you look at their stress number or what they tend to go to when they're in an unhealthy state, they actually lean towards me. An 8, you're going to see them exhibit the unhealthy traits in an 8. More aggression. You'll see them angry more. They'll snap more at people. And you'll also see them more dominating. And that's where the manipulation comes in. When we get to the 8s, we'll talk about an unhealthy 8 can be very manipulative to try to get what they want in life. And not a healthy 8, but an unhealthy 8 will do that. And they're only going to exhibit the traits of an unhealthy 8 in a time of stress.
And just like we were talking earlier, a lot of the times 2s will seem like they have this super generous, selfless heart with no motive. But a lot of the times they're in an unhealthy state. There is a motive. There is a big expectation to get something in return. But they're very good at hiding that. And this can actually stem from unacknowledged emotional issues going on underneath. And so it's very, very good to be aware where you're at. If you're a 2, you need to check yourself and just think, why do I feel this way? Don't go out of your way to do stuff for people to try to fill that hole in your heart or whatever's going on, just between you. Acknowledge those emotional issues, because if you don't, it's just going to keep digging a bigger hole.
Yeah, I mean, that's, as we get into the personal growth recommendations for 2, that's going to be the biggest one is first, check where you're at.
Yeah. Why
are you doing the things you're doing? Write down the things that you did accomplish that day. Write down how you helped people and write down next to it why you did it. If there's a motive that even comes, and this is a private thing, you don't have to share this with other people. If there's any motive that comes other than just to be genuinely wanting to help people, then that is more in that average unhealthy space. That means you're trying to do things either for your reputation, to fill a void of, like Laura said, an emotional distress, whether it's a self-confidence issue, whatever it is, find out what the issue is and take care of yourself first, because your giving is so much stronger when you give out of strength. Yeah.
And for the 2s listening, take this as motivation. Don't just look at it as like, oh yeah, I'm a terrible, type 2, but really, really seek to grow.
Yeah, look at this as an opportunity to not have to live in this state anymore. Yeah. Like I said, the best thing is, we don't choose any of the type. We don't choose all the way down to the subtype, but we choose the healthy and unhealthy state. Yeah. That's a daily conscious decision of there's practical things, and we're about to go over some of these practical things that you can do to stay in that healthy state. And wake up in the morning, even if you have to keep a list next to your bed, these are the things I need to do to remain healthy. These are the things I need to do to remain caring, to make sure I'm taken care of, to give out of strength, to remain confident, and to be a great leader in this world and a great teacher.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of the ways to grow as a 2. I think the first one to point out is you can't love others unless you yourself are loved. And that starts with you. You're going to be the best person to love yourself. I think of, just the fact that you can't give 100% if you're at a 5%.
If you're a 2, when's the last time you've asked your family or your best friends or your coworkers something that you want?
Yeah.
Not ask how you can help them. Ask something that you want.
Yeah.
There has to be a balance. You can't always be giving. You have to make sure you're taken care of too.
Yep. And like we've stated earlier, the next way to grow is to be super aware of your motives. Know when you're doing things to get something in return, and know when you're doing stuff just because it brings you joy. I mean, there's a huge difference in the 2 of those things. And when you're doing stuff to get something in return, you're only setting yourself up for disappointment, because you as a 2 are the only one that's going to see that. Other people aren't always going to recognize the value that you bring. I think a lot of the times you need to go into something expecting no one to say anything, no one to recognize it, because in that way, you won't be setting yourself up for disappointment. Don't assume what people need. I think a lot of the times, we were talking earlier that they can be mind readers, but I think it's also good to be aware that the way that you might perceive what they need, or, how they need it, it might actually not be the case at all. That may not be what they need whatsoever.
Yeah, I think the best way to approach that and still show your thoughtfulness is you can ask them if they need something before doing it. You can assume what they want, but don't go ahead and act on it. Yeah. So you can assume what they need, but then ask them if they actually need it before you act upon it, because then you can actually be like, hey, do you need this from me? And then they understand the thoughtfulness that you went out of your way to think about them, but it's still asking them and not being intrusive or hovering.
I also think it's good to resist the temptation to draw attention to your good deeds. Don't list out all of the things that you've done for others, because I think a lot of the times people start to read through that quickly.
It definitely shows the insecurity and the self-confidence issue that you're dealing with on a daily basis.
So, because, if they don't appreciate what you've done, like I said, that's on them 100%. And you can't control other people's actions.
The other thing is to learn to recognize how other people love you. A lot of 2s mix things up because they love in a certain way and whatever their love language is, which there's a book on the 5 love languages. And I highly recommend that for especially your relationship with your significant other, but even for your family members too, because a lot of it still correlates. But a lot of 2s mix things up. If someone doesn't love them in the way that they want to be loved, they almost just say they don't love them at all. But recognize that people love you in different ways, and they're going to show that in different ways. And when you can open up your perspective to, they're not loving me with the positive words of affirmation that I wanted, but they're honoring me this way and, giving me respect this way, or, giving me gifts or giving me quality time, that's a way to love people. Quality time is a way to love people. And sometimes for some people that's really hard to do, but you're wanting words of affirmation and they're not giving it, and you're saying they don't love you, when in reality they do.
Yeah.
So learn the way that other people love you and recognize all the different forms of the ways that they're loving you, not just the one that you're looking for in that moment.
Right. Yep.
For the rest of us, knowing that a 2 loves their love is a supreme currency, find the way to love your 2 properly.
Yeah.
Whether it's your spouse, whether it is your parent, whether it's your child, whether it's your family member, or you're just a friend, a really close friend, a best friend, or even coworkers, find the way that you can honor them the best. Challenge them on the personal growth things as long as you have that agreement with them, but find the way to not take them for granted, because it's easy. It's really easy to take a 2 for granted, because they're going to keep doing what they're doing because they are dutiful.
No matter what.
And even whether they're doing it out of an insecurity or they're doing it out of selflessness, they're going to keep doing it. So help them grow in becoming selfless, but also learn to not take them for granted.
Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode. We hope that you've learned something new, that you feel challenged, and are inspired to live a life beyond the norm.
If something in this episode stuck out to you, be sure to screenshot the podcast, post it on Instagram, and tag us in it. Let us know what captivated you.
And speaking of Instagram, we would love to connect with you and let you be the first to know about our new episodes and exciting updates.
If you found value in this podcast, be sure to leave us a rating or review. This will allow us to expand our reach and let others know that they can benefit from this podcast as well.
We appreciate you spending your time with us, and we can't wait to be with you again soon.
Join us next time as we continue to live a life beyond the norm.